Welcome back to Shining Light Press podcast. I'm your host, Freddie Lopez, and today we have a returning guest with us. And my goodness, it's like been a while since we've interviewed this guest, and she is the only candidate running for Secretary of State on the Republican ticket, and she has several major endorsements. One from the America First Secretary of State Coalition, the Veterans for America First, the Republican Hispanic Assembly of New Mexico, and the New Mexico. So she has been making so many strides, and she has been just absolutely breaking ground and is the only candidate on the Republican ticket. Please welcome back Audrey Trujillo. Audrey Trujillo, welcome back.
Hi, everybody. Thanks, Freddie. It's good to be back.
Yes, it's good to be back. It's good to see you. So, for those who may not know exactly who you are and who are just getting to the show or just may have forgotten, give us a very brief introduction to who you are, and why you are running for the office of Secretary of State.
So again, my name is Audrey Trujillo. I'm born and raised in New Mexico. My family goes back generations. I am married. I have three kids. I have two older sons and a daughter. I've been married for about 21, 22 years with my husband. I went to school at the University of New Mexico, first of my family to go to college. I graduated with a bachelor's in Spanish and in Portuguese, and also in criminology. And I also went on and got my master's in public administration. I've been a big, strong voice for New Mexicans, especially the conservative movement. I have been very just involved with the schools because my kids were going to school, and I was the PTA president, I was the treasurer. Anywhere I could, take a position and make a difference, I did, especially when it came to being close to my children. So I'm here today and I'm running for Secretary of State. This kind of fell in my lap. Over the years, I had been just a concerned citizen. That's what it started out to be. Not seeing that we as conservatives had a very strong voice in New Mexico. A lot of our conservatives and our Republicans definitely seemed to kind of be put to the wayside when it came to decision making, whether it be in the legislature or on the media or any kind of just focus on anything that was going on, whether it be even our culture and our history in New Mexico. A lot of our strong voices that were conservative were being silenced. So that's where it came to me that I had to make a stand. And I started very small, just going to public comments meetings, city council meetings, on issues that were being addressed, that were taking away our freedoms, that were against our kids, anything dealing with our constitutional rights. I made sure I would show up and I would make public comment on and give a voice to our conservatives. And that's kind of like how has kind of trickled down to where I'm at today, running for Secretary of State. A lot of people in 2020 we're very concerned in our electoral process here in New Mexico and across the country. So we started doing a lot of research and figuring out, how can we do this better? What are we doing in New Mexico that's creating this narrative with the people of New Mexico to not believe in our system that's in place? So concerns, anomalies, different things that happened in 2020 has really made this a big problem. So that's why I'm running for Secretary of State. I want to make sure that our system in New Mexico is tightened. We need to make sure we have secure elections here. Our voices should be very sacred, and that is our votes. And that goes for any party. It doesn't matter what party you're in. All of us agree that our votes should be protected.
Absolutely, absolutely. Very well said. And many people across the country and even here in New Mexico Whether or not anything had occurred in 2020 is irrelevant because there are just so many people out there who just simply who just believe that it just wasn't fair and it wasn't free. So my question to you is, where are all these concerns addressed at right now in terms of New Mexico? It could be people have concerns about the voting rolls, people have concerns about the voting machines. Where do you see many of the anomalies coming from that are giving people these concerns?
Well, I think it's at the administrative level, a lot of it. I think record keeping has been really horrible, and that goes to our voter rolls being cleaned. They have not been cleaned like they're supposed to be. There are some county clerks, and that's why I want to give them credit, that have been doing a good job, but not all of them have. And there's concerns when you have people on the voter rolsters that are still they don't even live here, but they're still able to vote, or they're absentee ballots, or even just the ability to vote, are being sent to locations that have no real addresses. Older people that are in their 120 still voting in person, like in Sandoval County. I mean, there's so many different things that we're seeing now that we've been actually investigating and looking into the records of our past elections. And it's not just 2020. We're going all the way down to 2017, and it's going to be going further. So we have to deal with these issues. As the Secretary of State, I'm not here to point fingers. I am here to correct the things that are not working, number one, and that are not being transparent. And number three, we need to make sure that our voters feel the confidence in the process that we have here in New Mexico. And I think that's how everybody should feel across the nation. You know, we should be able to be secure in our methods, and in elections especially, because elections, I mean, that's the whole point of our freedoms of being in America, you know, is being able to vote for our representatives. And if that is being either nefariously, you know, compromised in any way or form, then we need to make sure that that's not happening, especially in our state. I can't do anything, you know, across the nation, but we sure can be an example here in New Mexico and show that, yes, we can have fair elections. Yes, we can make sure that we have transparency. Yes, we can have an honest Secretary of State in office and make sure that everybody is treated equally. And when it comes to our rights to vote, that, you know, we have that right because we were given that right from history, you know, from our Constitution. You know, women didn't have that right a long time ago, and we were the last ones to get that right. So as a woman, I find that right as something that's really strong to my heart, and we need to protect that right, and it should not be manipulated. I think one of the mottos that we've been using is, we want elections, not selections. We want to make sure that people are making those selections, not a machine, not all these, you know, fraudulent votes. We want to make the selection, and then we deal with the selection that we make, because, you know, elections do have consequences. But I would feel much better that if we all voted and our votes all counted, and maybe we made a bad choice, well, we deal with it and we move forward, and then we elect a new person the next time around. But what we're seeing right now, people don't even believe that we're even actually selecting these people with our votes, that they're being actually, you know, selected for us. And we're seeing information coming from statewide, you know, from Nevada, from Arizona, from all these different places where audits are being held, how things are being manipulated. Otero County in New Mexico also is looking into some of these anomalies, and that is a red state. So, you know, when you have people that are concerned in a red state about an election where they actually, you know, won, you know, they won their seats, but they're concerned at the process. They want to know and make sure that it doesn't matter what party or what the outcome is, but that election was done fairly.
Absolutely, absolutely, yeah, and it's that is the main crux of everything, where it's many people are just concerned, even in red states where many people on the Republican side have won, or at least are in positions of power. And my question to you is, what is going on in the national scale? What are we seeing in the national scale? Because there have been so many things that have been discovered across other states. So what is going on that front?
Well, we have a lot of stuff going on. I'm going to go to my notes over here. But I want to go back to one thing real quick. I know we had a question on the same day voting that we have here in New Mexico. And that's real concerning to a lot of our New Mexicans, because during our primaries, you have to be you have to have a affiliated party. So you have to either be Democrat, Republican, or Libertarian in order to participate in the primaries. Well, the same day voter, which how I understand it, it looks to me that a person can go on the same day, change their affiliation during the primaries on that same day, vote in a primary that's maybe a possibly that is not your party, and vote for somebody else's party primary, and then turn around a few days later or whatever after the primaries are over and go back to and register to their own personal party. Which, that's another thing. It's like, why are we doing same day registration? It used to be where you had to wait 28 days. That's what was in the books. That was what was in the New Mexico Constitution, that 28 days prior to an election, you had to, it was basically you could not register or change your party affiliation, or you wouldn't be able to participate in that election. So, all these loosened rules are what we're seeing happen at a very pivotal time where confidence is supposed to be built, and we're not building that confidence by changing these rules or making these rules or loosening these rules. Those are things that are really we need to look into. But yes, according to Section G of 1-457 outlines the types of items a qualifier elector should bring with them to utilize SDR. So all they have to do is bring their driver's license or a New Mexico identification, or they can go to the motor vehicle and get an actual paper from the revenue of taxation and taxation and revenue department, and just get a form and say that they now live in that place wherever they're going to be registering, right, to change their location. But it doesn't say that you actually have to have a picture ID or a license to show when you do that. So it's like there's all this stuff that's just needs to be tightened. These rules do not make sense to make sure to keep a tight grip on making sure that nobody's doing things nefariously. Of course, we want to change our registrations when we move from some other place and we want to, participate in these elections here. That's given. But we do not want to open up the chances that a person could come from, let's say, Colorado, or a group of people come from another state, participate in our elections, nefariously, not because they live here, but because they want to just mess with our elections, and then go back to their state and then go register over there and participate in their elections. I mean, you see where it can all get kind of pretty crazy. And then to be able to, even as a Secretary of State or anybody in the position of elections, to be able to counter that becomes a very difficult task. So the complexity of all of this is just, just creating a dysfunction, disorganization. All that stuff is just creating this chaos that we're seeing today, and building, the confidence is not going to happen by doing these things, building back the confidence.
Yes, it's going to be an insurmountable task to bring back the confidence, but that's what many people want, and this transcends across party lines. This isn't just about Democrat, Republican, libertarian, independent. This transcends all that because your right to vote is paramount. People have died for that. And when people have questions, and the current Secretary of State is responsible too because she has loosened rules in hearings with either no public comment or even any input from the other side.
Right.
So, and that is just, it is disturbing to see that, especially when it comes to our right to vote. And to move forward, what do you believe could be the best solution? People say there is, blockchain voting, which again, people still are not sure about because it involves technology. Then they're saying there should be paper ballots, hand counts. What do you believe is the best solution on that front?
So right now we have they're basically scanner machines. There's the Dominion machine, but they're all the same type of machines. There's different names for them. And these machines are basically, they scan your ballot, they take a picture of your ballot basically, and they count, they're counters. They count the ballots to make basically the job of counting ballots a lot easier. That's what they're supposed, that's why they were accepted in during Diane Duran's Secretary of State, when she was in Secretary of State. But the problem with these machines is that, we have just found out that they can be manipulated from outside sources. So like someone can, with their phone or anything else, hook up onto them and scrutinize data, do things like that. And what they're telling us is that's not happening here in New Mexico. But what we're seeing with these grassroots audits and people just even looking through the Secretary of State records and things that they're seeing is there's a lot of discrepancies. There's a lot of missing votes. There's a lot of people voting that shouldn't be voting, that are dead. Like I said, the 120-year-old lady in Rio Rancho. A lot of these anomalies are being seen. So it's opening up more questions, and it's like, okay, hold on, 10,000 votes are missing from Sandoval County. Where did they go? And then they were looking for, where these votes went, and they were like put in another category. Well, is this an administration error? Is this something that's happening with the computers because, someone's manipulating them? We need to find out whether it's just a technical mistake, or whether it's a mistake that the person who was recording this stuff did. If there's other, issues involved that we don't know about, this needs to be addressed to the people. And that is a priority for the Secretary of State. She should not be, trying to shut down audits. She should be part of these audits and say, look, you guys have questions. I'm an elected official. Let's answer those questions. Let's figure this out. Because the confidence of your people needs to be restored in New Mexico. And that's what I want to do as a Secretary of State. I want to restore confidence back into New Mexico because, like I said, we want our people to be participants in our elections. We want eligible voters to be able to feel like they're making a difference by going and casting their votes. And it's at this moment, you hear it. Why should I even vote? They've already voted for us. It's already predetermined. Everything's predetermined already. That's what they believe. Whether it's true or not doesn't really matter, but that's exactly what the people believe. How do you restore confidence back into the people? We have to make sure that we're transparent. We got to do everything that's in our power, within the Secretary of State's power, to make sure that we look into every question that's being asked of our office. And it doesn't mean burying information or trying to manipulate, things and bring in the big guns, bring in your auditor, your attorney general, or whoever else to start, talking, down to people and saying, oh, they're just. I was called for myself just because I questioned, and I said, I think it's perfectly acceptable for Otero to have an audit. I was actually called by the communications director of Maggie Toulouse that I was a denier of our elections. What did they call me? Election denier. And I find that very hilarious because I'm not denying any election. What I'm denying is the fact that she as a Secretary of State, should be on board with this. And I'm questioning it. I'm not even denying anything. I'm questioning it. What is their motives? Why would you be hiding? If you have nothing to hide, open the books. Show people that you did everything in your power to make, do the right thing. But, putting all these roadblocks and making it difficult and trying to create something that's not there and lying about it, that's very deceitful. And that's not something we want in a Secretary of State to be running our elections or anything else.
Absolutely, absolutely. And they called many people who simply questioned. They weren't denying anything. They simply questioned, and they had questions that needed to be answered. They were called either election deniers, conspiracy theorists, and in some cases even worse, just because they questioned it, and that is not fair, which even adds more scrutiny to the electoral process. Because why would you have all these questions and then immediately be put down for it? It does not make any sense. It's not transparent. There's no dignity, there's no integrity in there at all. And what would be, if elected, what would be your top priorities? The priorities where a Secretary of State can get done and things that can really make a difference?
I think the biggest thing that we need to do in New Mexico, and something that the Secretary of State first day in office can do, is clean the rolls. Clean the rolls. I mean, every county clerk needs to clean their voter rolls. That's a given. That's something that we should be doing even prior to me going into office. A second thing that we can do is make sure that we look into these rules that have been changed during the Emergency Orders Act. Those that are not laws need to be changed back to their original intent, which was to secure our elections. So we got to go back and look at everything that has been changed during this time that Maggie Toulouse has been in there. And things that are working, we keep. Things that are not working, we don't. We look for better solutions. There are a lot of things that we can do better. I'm not here to bash her. Everybody who runs for public office and works for our state of New Mexico, we should be backing everybody, but when they're not doing their job and they're not doing what they're elected, they are elected officials, and we need to hold them accountable. So, I think myself, when I'm in there, I want to be held accountable because I am working for the people. So as someone who's running for Secretary of State, I want her to be held accountable. I want her to look into what is working and what is not working. And if she doesn't want to just accept the fact that she's lost the confidence of the people, then maybe she shouldn't be, running for office again. Maybe she should be looking into something else because, right now we do need the confidence of our voters back. That is a priority, and that's what we need to do, and that's what I intend to do when I get into office.
Fantastic, fantastic. Yes, because, and it just amazes me, these are the same individuals who say we have the most secure, free, and that's what they say about 2020. They say it's the most secure election that there ever was. And then as soon as someone goes, well, let's see, I want to see for sure, they're like, oh no, don't do that. And it's just hypocrisy. It's hypocrisy on many levels. And I think that's a great question as well to lead on is, what would you bring to, because the confidence is not there. The confidence is not there. And when you get into the office, how are you going to just show that the transparency and honesty and just with, showing the American people and New Mexicans that I don't care what party you are. I want to make sure you have the right to vote and that it's secure.
Well, number one, I would welcome audits. I would welcome them. And I would actually encourage them. If there's a question in an election, we need to welcome those audits, and we should not make them expensive or they're so complicated or take too much time. We got to make sure to find a way to be able to answer concerns of our public, our constituents, in a timely fashion. And this is only going to help us. I don't see complicating the voting process is anything that's going to help us. We need to simplify it. And if it takes us to hand count paper ballots in each county. Number one, our population isn't that big. We have 2.1 total population in New Mexico, and only a few of those people vote. So per county, they can actually, at the county level, opt in to just hand count. They don't have to use the Dominion machines. Maybe because we've already spent $52 million, they can use them as a backup to count the hand counted version, votes. Just to say, okay, well, we counted this many, let's put them through and let's see if we come up with the same thing. And then do it again if they have to, to come up with something that matches. But as right now, those machines are the count. That's it. The only thing we can do is if there's an election that is really close, right now the statutes allow us to go back and recount that election. If the candidate asked for that to be done. And then again, there's costs involved in that as well. I think it was like $10,000. I mean, I might be wrong on my numbers, but it's ridiculous how much it costs to do recounts for elections. So a lot of our candidates don't, they've already spent all their money probably in their campaign to get elected. And at the end, a lot of them don't have money unless they have, big treasure chests that we don't know of. But as far as I mean, we have to just simplify our elections. That's a big thing that we need to work on as well. Simplify the process.
Yes,
absolutely. Go back to the basics if we have to. Like I said, if there's no confidence in these machines, let's hand count. Let's do it. If it builds the confidence back in the people, get them to volunteer and let's hand count. Let's work with honest people. Let's try to get some honest people within the county clerk's office to help the county clerks. Because, like I said, I am not going to, throw mud at any county clerk. I think they really honestly are doing the job that they are being shown to do. And if we are given a task and say, well, this is what you do, this is the machines, they really don't have any power to manipulate the machine. The machines, if they are being manipulated, and other states have shown that they are, that can be done with an outsource. It could be done from another country. That's where we should be concerned. We don't want other people from other countries manipulating our elections or taking part in our elections. For instance, we had Russia, China. We've even, as the United States, have taken the opportunity to manipulate other countries' elections. So to say that this cannot happen at a local or a state level is outrageous. We know it can happen.
Absolutely, and it's a big issue, and many people either don't want to talk about it or they feel that it's not even an issue at all because this transcends all lines. I mean, especially if there's other countries. If other countries are involved, it's national security. It concerns national security, and nationwide, we are seeing so many things occur. Even things that are specific to New Mexico, and it's just how do you? Because an interesting in two cities that we have here in New Mexico, it's the city of Santa Fe that has ranked choice voting. That further complicates votes. In the city of Las Cruces, they have ranked choice voting. Whatever happened to all of this? Why is there so need for complication? They say that ranked choice voting makes it gives candidates an equal playing field, while the voters don't think so. The voters look at
because your votes roll to the next person who gets the votes, and it's just a complicated. It just complicates the whole voting process, and a lot of our older or just people that just they don't understand the process, so it really just discourages them to even vote at all. They're just like, oh, I don't understand this. This is too complicated. Forget that. So you're not encouraging people to vote with those type of things. And we've seen manipulations. It looks like, when something's complicated, they can manipulate things. And I believe that's what they have been doing, and that's why they brought in ranked choice. And guess who brought in ranked choice voting? Can you guess?
I would say Maggie Toulouse-Oliver, the current Secretary of State.
Absolutely.
Mm.
You know, and you know, you kind of question these kind of things because every time we look at things that she's pushing, even through the legislature, the bills that they were trying to push at the end now that we're going to loosen more rules and actually permanent things that happened in the Emergency Orders Act and allow 16-year-olds to vote and all these crazy things that came up with the SB 8 and then ultimately into that big omnibus, say that right, um, bill at the end that started off as a page and a half and turned out to be 160 pages long, you know, that got stuffed with everything that people, the legislature did not want, ended up getting stuffed in that bill again. And thank God for our senators at the last, you know, hour, they filibustered it out. But, you know, they're going to try this again, especially if Maggie ends up being the Secretary of State for another additional 4 years. She'll be in there 10 years. She is going to definitely push this again through. And she's going to make sure that, you know, everybody involved is going to, you know, want to pass these rules and change them forever. And a lot of these rules are very concerning because of the fact that they federalize our elections, which is a huge concern. You know, we have state sovereignty. We should never federalize our elections. And to me, that is the biggest concern in this election, that if you want federalized elections, you might as well give your state sovereignty away because that's what they're doing. They're controlling every aspect of our electoral process in New Mexico once it becomes federalized. They're using that John Lewis bill, all these things that, you know, they make it sound all good, but it really isn't. And that's very concerning to me.
Yes, they even had a piece of legislation. They literally, I kid you not, they called it For the People Act.
Yeah.
Except if you actually read it, it's nothing about the people at all. But they do that on purpose so that people will say, oh, this sounds like a good piece of legislation when it's not. And every state should run their own elections. That is just the bottom line. Because if you
Right.
have this federal government, I mean, they always say this, if you have more government, more issues are going to arise. So they're just adding on to the problems that we already have by doing that.
Well, it goes back to the main big government. You know, we do not want big government. We want small government. We want government by the people. We want our republic to be the ones in charge and our elected officials to be accountable. And at all levels, we're seeing it within our school systems as well. You know, Bill Richardson brought in the PED, and I know we're going off a little bit off topic, but there's a correlation here. You know, it's building government to be so big where at the local level you have no control. Parents don't have no more control. The parent-teacher boards don't have control. It's the PED now that can make decisions for communities and counties where they have no idea of how these people live, how, you know, the mechanisms of their counties, how they deal with things. I mean, they're trying to blanket law everything. And that's exactly what they're trying to do with our elections, you know, blanket everything. And it's a fail because that's what the beauty of our government is having that division to be able to have local authority, have state level authority, have federal authority, and there be a balance between all of them, you know, and there's no overstepping because everybody knows their place. There's you know, we just need a balanced government. That's what we need. New Mexico is so unbalanced right now. We have these progressive liberals and far left. I wouldn't even call them Democrats because we have some good Democrats as well. But these people have completely taken control, and there's not that many of them. They just have big voices. And what they do is they get themselves placed in these positions, whether it's in the student boards, public school boards, or in your local elections, and then they start trying to implement all these socialist government type of governance. And then we start seeing these little things trickle down, and it starts, affecting everything else. And it's a domino effect. And now we're seeing all of that effect coming all at once, and we're just like, what the heck are we doing? Where were we sleeping this whole time? And now we're trying to counter it. We're trying to counter it with conservative values, getting back to the basics, simplifying things instead of creating a big mess. We're trying to correct that, but we need everybody involved. We need our conservatives, our people that believe in the Constitution, believe in just doing the right thing to step into these offices and really eliminate these people that are there for their own personal selves. They're not there for the people.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. And they always say that there's misinformation and disinformation. They always constantly speed that up when anybody questions everything. And I think to myself, well, if you're so concerned about misinformation, disinformation, the way you can prevent that and stop that from happening is making sure that there is no questions about the process, by making sure that the process is fair, that it is free, that it is secure, and that everyone is easier. But they don't seem to have that in mind. It seems that they're all about themselves and more government, more problems eventually.
Right.
And
so like I said, there's going to always be that debate whether, like, we're going back to the elections, whether these machines are manipulating our votes, whether, these things are happening. But my main concern is, let's be transparent. If they're not coming from the machine's not part of it. If absentee ballots were not a part of it, if same day voting is not a part of all this stuff, let's prove it. Let's prove it that it wasn't part of it, that we have fair elections here in New Mexico. Let's prove it. I think that's what needs to happen. And if it's proven the other way around, let's fix it. Let's find solutions. But the bottom line is, do not shut up our concerned citizens' voices. That's a disrespect, and that's something New Mexico does not need.
Absolutely, absolutely. We have seen many states already take action, whether it be our neighbors across the South in Texas. We see them in Georgia, Florida, many of these other places, and they always
even Tennessee. Tennessee as well. They've had anomalies. They're questioning their elections as well. All these different states are popping up because they have concerns.
Yep, and they're all red states. It's not just blue states. And if this is such a huge problem where red states are now starting to get involved, this is an issue, and it's an issue that's not just unique to New Mexico, but the whole country as well.
Right. It's something that we need to take care of, especially because, our votes are supposed to be sacred. The right to vote is sacred in itself. And, that's, they talk about democracy and how we're as Republicans and we're the terrible ones that are trying to eliminate people from voting. Well, I want to correct that. We're not eliminating people from voting. We are encouraging eligible voters to vote. That's what we need to do. It's not at all everybody can vote. When I went to the last congressional meeting that we had up in Santa Fe, that actually had no comments from the public. You were there with me. It was pretty disgusting to see these people patting their backs, and the Republican Party or the conservative voice was not present there. There was no counter. And, we were very frustrated. It was you, me, and Marcy May. And it was like, wow, these people really think that they control everything in the narrative, and they are speaking for all of us. Well, I can tell you right now, they are not speaking for me. I would never consider federalizing our elections. And that was what that whole thing was about. The main thing was federalizing our elections and using these far left groups to manipulate and have a voice there. I couldn't believe that they were called out, like what, two other or three other groups that were far left groups, Democrat groups that call themselves independent groups, which they were not. They all have connections with each other to speak on behalf of the New Mexico people. Well, they don't speak for me. They don't speak for you. And I'm sure they don't speak for a lot of the people that are listening to this podcast right now. You know, we do not want elections that are manipulated and people coming into our country without doing the proper thing and becoming a citizen and voting in our elections. We don't want people from out of state coming in and voting in our New Mexico elections. People have to be eligible to vote here and make decisions that are going to affect New Mexicans.
Absolutely, absolutely, and that is just the way it is, and that's the way it's supposed to be for every election. And I guess my final question to you is, what will be your final pitch to voters? What will be your final pitch to voters? And how can people find you?
So one thing that we need to be excited about is there are a lot of concerned citizens doing things to actually try to protect our votes. So in Sandoval County alone, you know, we had commission meetings that we've been attending, and we have invited the county clerks. The county clerks showed us the warehouse where they do everything. And like I said, I don't think it's up at the upfront if anything nefarious is going on. It's somewhere where the data processing is going on. It's with the machines, the computer, how that information is being processed. That's where it's you know, I think that's where the manipulation is being caused. But the good thing about it was I think, you know, having an open communication with these county clerks, showing them we're all on the same side. We just want fair elections. We want to make sure that we're transparent, and we're here to help you to be transparent, because these are the questions of the citizens. We're not here to badger you. We just want to make sure that our questions are answered. So when we go out in public, or if I'm at a meet and greet or whatever, and someone asks me a question about something, I can say, well, I was here and this is what I saw and this is what they're doing in Sandoval County. You know what I mean? And this is where they're working towards making sure that the elections are more secure this next time around. You know, I don't want to be the bearer of bad news all the time. I want to actually show support for our county clerks. And I think it's important. But we need to have that communication. We have to have that information as well to make sure that happens. But the exciting thing about it is a lot of people are questioning these ballot boxes that were paid for by Zuckerbucks. Do you remember those? Those, yes. In Sandoval County alone, we had 7 of them. 7 of these boxes that are unsecured because there is not 24-hour surveillance. These are not federally, they're not federal boxes. They're basically boxes that are used to collect absentee ballots. They're not backed by the federal postal service or anything like that. And anybody can go and just stuff a bunch of ballots in there. And really, honestly, if they were to be caught, I don't think there's a whole lot that they could do with them because they aren't federal boxes in like the post office. So there's a question and concern about those boxes. And in Sandoval County, we brought this to the attention of the commissioners there. And they actually opted to take out 7 of them. So right now we only have 2 versus 7. You know, so that's a win. I see that as a win because now we can actually have, you know, eyes on at least only 2 versus 7. Could you imagine having 7 boxes that you have to monitor? So that's gonna make a huge difference. We couldn't get rid of them. There is something that was placed in the rules of the Secretary of State that we had to at least have 2. So if every county can at least get down to trying to eliminate some of those boxes, that could make a huge difference as well, and to make sure that things are monitored in a way where at least it's a little bit better than what we already had in place. So
Absolutely.
that's good news. Mhm.
Absolutely. And that's one way people can get involved, not just in voting. Go to your county commission, go to your city
Yeah.
council. And that's how you can make a change. You've made a lot of changes in your county of Sandoval.
Mhm.
And that's the
And
way to do it.
registering people, register people to vote. Like for me, it's so exciting when I go to a meet and greet, and there's a few people that, just have never registered. They're interested in the politics, but they just never register. They just don't feel like, their vote is really one of many. And it's like, oh, well, what was my vote going to do? It's just one vote. Well, no, it is. It's huge. And we like to get people registered. It doesn't matter what your affiliation, as long as you're being part of the process. That's my concern. And be a concerned and educated voter. You know, what I was wanting to do when I get into office, I want to have a place for the layman terms people that don't need to, have an Ivy League education or a lawyer or whatever. So people could just go in and find information. Where do I, where are my precincts? What county do I reside in? What is my district? Simple things that to me and we know the lingo, we know what it is, but a lot of people don't. They don't understand that there are different elections that happen all the time within their districts and in their counties. And the only ones that they really pay attention to is the presidential or maybe the governor races. There are other elections, and they're very important. And once you understand where you live and what district you're in, those are things that need to, the voter needs to know about, because we see such low turnout in a lot of these local elections, and people by only a few votes win. And it's something that is also concerning to me. We need to get that participation up. Don't be yawning there, buddy. You make me yawn.
No, it's okay. It
Um,
was just there. I was just at the yawn there. But no, you're actually
right.
very interesting to speak to, and you're
Yep.
very well informed. You are one of the
Just,
most.
and like the biggest thing is register to vote, number one, if you're not registered. Participate in the process, which means become a poll watcher. They're actually training poll watchers and presiding judges and poll challengers. All of those trainings are available, and really the place to go is to your county clerks to find out about them, or your party. Your party is doing also trainings. I know our Republican Party is doing trainings. They're really wanting to help in the process. So I don't want us to feel like we're against each other, Democrats against the Republicans or the whatever. We need to work together, because New Mexico is for all of us. I love New Mexico. I was born and raised here. My kids are here. My family's here. And, I want to protect New Mexico. And I just want us to be number one in something finally. I want us to be number one in our elections and in integrity.
Absolutely,
So,
absolutely. And frankly, the way I see it, because we have a governor's race ongoing here in New Mexico, honestly, that race is not as important as the Secretary of State's race. Why? Because it deals with one fundamental issue that we all can agree on. Your right to vote. Your right to vote.
absolutely. I agree.
Your right to vote. And I believe that's all the time we have. But I wanted to say one more thing. How can people find you? Can they follow you on social media? Visit your website? How can they find you?
Yes, we do have a really nice website, and we can go into more details about where I stand on issues, and that is Audrey True, True, Hero, Hero, 4 nm.com. Did I get that right?
You got that right. That got that right. By the way,
um,
I was the guy who made her website. So
yeah, he really cleaned up my website. I'm so grateful to you. Um, but yeah, you can go there. You can donate to our campaign. We definitely are needing campaign donations, and we want it to come from grassroots efforts. Definitely, we want our campaign to reflect what I'm fighting for, and that's for the people. So we definitely would love to have that. So $5, $10, $20, whatever you can afford, just go in there, click on that link, learn more about me, learn about my history, learn what we can do when we get into office, and donate and help the cause, be part of the fight for
and
sure.
and volunteer
And
as well.
volunteer, yes.
Hmm.
We're going to be needing a lot of volunteers. We're going to be walking. This is a statewide race. Every county, we're going to need volunteers from every single county. Door knocking, phone calling, uh, you name it. We're going to need the help. And we're going to have to come out with our war chest as well. So,
Absolutely, absolutely. And there's a couple things I want to talk to you off the record, but that's going to be it for this episode of the Shining Light Press podcast. It's been a while since we had Audrey Trujillo on, but she is back. And please be sure to like and subscribe, comment, and there will be a link in the description box for our website as well as our social media. And thank you all so much for tuning in. And thank you so much, Audrey, for joining us again.
oh, thank you for having me, Freddie. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much and take care, everyone. We'll see you on the next episode.